Welcome back to Salesforce Mojo. Today we're going to be talking about Commerce on Core and how we're going to load products into Commerce Cloud. So let's dive right in. Now the first thing we should start with is the ways of loading products. Now, number one way is what we've actually done in this series a couple of times now, and that is manually putting records in and loading products that way. Now this, of course, is definitely a doable way, but when you're talking about hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of products, this is definitely not sustainable. So how can we actually load many products at once in a scalable fashion? Well, that's when we get into a couple of different options. One of those being Data Loader and some other loading tools that are available to you. The Import Wizard inside of Salesforce. And workbench if you would like to use it as a loading alternative here. Now there may be more ways than this, such as the API and others. However, I'm going to cover these in a little bit of depth in this video, and just to illustrate exactly what are the pros and cons and how this all can work together. Now before we get too far into actually getting into these tools, I thought it would be helpful to kind of level set on what are we actually dealing with when it comes to data. Because if I haven't said it before, I will say it now and I'll probably say it again. Commerce Cloud is data. Everything is revolved around data, and that's how everything is shown, displayed, and really the context is set for looking at products and purchasing them. So inside of kind of this product space here, when we're loading data, we of course need to load the product record, and that object's called product2. This is where all of the fields are housed and all of the name and SKU number is sourced, and we'll see that in a minute here. The second one is price book entries. This is the price for the different product, and you can have many different price book entries against a single product. So keep in mind that it doesn't just need to be one record per product. So if we were loading our shirt, we'd have one shirt product up here at the top, but we might be adding two different price books, maybe the standard price book entry and your custom store price book entry. So there's actually two records per product in the price book entries. And then we have the cleverly named product category product object here, which essentially is the junction record between the product, shirt in our case, and the category, let's say apparel. And the two of those connected together makes this product category product record that links them. Lastly, we have the commerce entitlement product, which again is a junction record that connects the entitlement policy that we've shown and kind of worked through many times and the product. So that product can show when that person is entitled to see those products. Now this is for a simple product, and you can kind of see a little bit complicated here. There's quite a bit of data, and as you start to think about how many records we have to deal with for products, we have one for the product, two for the price book entry at least, that's 3 records, 4 for at least one category, and 5 for at least one entitlement. So we have 5 records per one product that we have to kind of deal with and understand. Now, if we go into what we were talking about last time about parent products, it gets just a little bit more complex here. So we've kind of broken it out into 4 different objects, or I should say 3 objects and 4 kind of ways to use those. So the top left here is your product2 record again. Now in this example, we went through this last time, the shirt. And the shirt product is the parent product. Now in our example, we created shirt small and shirt medium. And so when we were linking that parent product to a attribute set, when we initially selected that parent product and did that configuration, we not only created the parent product 2 on the left-hand side here, but we also created the product attribute set product, which linked that shirt parent product to the size color attribute set that we had configured, thus making every other child product that is connected to the shirt linked also to that attribute set. So I know that was a lot to digest here, but the order is I created a parent product, it immediately creates a product2 record, and it creates a product attribute set product record. Then when you start adding attribute sets, you're actually creating another product2 record as we've shown, and in this case we called it shirt small. And when you link and create that variation or that child product, it actually also creates a product attribute record, which links that child to its parent, the shirt parent record here. So on top of all of the other information, as we look back here, that we have to do around prices, product, and entitlements, if we have to load parent products records, we have to understand what it's doing behind the scenes. And so this is what's happening. Now, with that context in mind, and I know that was a lot, so hopefully it'll start making more sense as we get into actually doing this. As we have that in mind, let's actually jump into Salesforce and see what this looks like. Right, so we're back in Salesforce here, and the first place we're going to go is going to imports. So just to show kind of navigations here, you can go back to your store here, scroll down, and you can click on products in your workspace section. And this product workspace is actually where we'll go and do the importing. So in the top right, you can see that it says import. So we'll click that. And right away, you'll see that you have a way to upload on the left-hand side here. So it will tell you kind of what it's going to do, what you need to set up before you actually go and do this. So we can collapse that because we have all that set up here. But you can see immediately that you have some limitations. You have up to 5,000 rows or products that can be inserted at once. So if you have more than that at a time, you might want to consider other methods such as data loading or workbench or other import tools. However, for most cases, 5,000 is a relatively large amount of products that you can load at once because it is not only loading just the 5,000 records of products, but it's also loading all of the related information and related products as well, which we'll actually see here in a document in a second. The next thing you'll see as you go down is that there's a couple of pre-built templates, which are right there at the bottom and pretty handy for us to take a look at. So why don't we pull those up real quick? The product simple import is what it means. It's just a simple product import, no parent products. And you can see that the fields on here are relatively straightforward. It's the product name, description, SKU, product active, product family, category, and it goes through all the different prices, entitlements, and if you have external media that you want to import as well, it will do that additionally. And then if we go over into the documentation for this, you can see that as we scroll down, it will give you a mapping of what it's expecting inside of each one of these columns and whether they're optional or not, like descriptions optional. But you can see that you can also start to use some custom fields if you have those in products as well to map those in. And so that's a very nice feature to have. So it's not just a standard capability here. But then as we can scroll down, we can see all the different fields that we possibly could use to make this viable for us. And actually, I should take that back. This does allow variation as well. But you can see as we go back to Excel, there is an advanced commerce import, which is just a little bit more complicated here. Similar fields, but you can go down, you can start to see that it does the creation of these in a much more dynamic manner. And you can see that the attribute sets are up here that we talked about earlier. You can see the attribute names that you're mapping it to and the values that you're using to map that. So that's this is kind of where it gets a little more complex here. And using this import tool is handy, but it's a combination of like 6 different objects that you can possibly import. And if we go back over into the documentation, there's another section called import using data loader. And it doesn't give you a whole lot in here, but it shows that you can do this. But it does give this call out that I will reiterate on this because it is important that they strongly recommend to use the import tool if you are able to with the limitations that it has at 5,000 products. And it says typically more than 25,000 updates are required to relate those 5,000 products that you're importing. So you can start to see the scale here. If you had 5,000 products you wanted to import manually, you would actually be touching 25,000 updates across the different objects that I mentioned earlier. So it's definitely important to keep that in mind. However, there are use cases and needs where you do need to do a data loader. And so that's kind of why I walked through those different objects earlier and those use cases. But why don't we go back into Salesforce real quick and we'll go over into our simple import right here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to clear out the bottom section here. We're going to enter a new product for us. And so we're going to say this is a sweatshirt and put some information in here. We'll give this a SKU number. Say this product is true, it's meaning it's active. We're not going to give it a family. We do need to find a category that matches our store. So let's go over to categories. We just have products right now, so we'll put products here, and we'll put the price at let's call it 20 bucks. Let's keep the formatting here so we make sure we don't mess anything up. And then we're going to pull over that here as well. We don't have any special or VIP pricing, so I'm going to remove those. And we need to make sure this matches our entitlement. So let's go over into entitlements. Oops, wrong entitlements. That's an important thing to remember. Policies. And ours is called All Access for Tiny Homes. So we're going to give that the name here. And we're not going to do any variations. We'll leave those blank, and we're not going to do any media here. So that should give us what we need to actually do an import. So let's give that a save. And we'll come back over to our import wizard here and find that file that I just saved. Okay, so now that that's loaded here, we can click import, and if we have any errors, it'll give us errors. We are going to map a catalog here, and ours should be called Tiny Homes, I believe. Tiny Homes catalog, yep. And we're going to map price books. So it's going to find those in the Excel file, which ones we used, and we're going to say this. We need the standard price book, so we'll map sale to standard, just so we can actually get this loaded. And then we'll map the original one to the price book, but we could have probably done a better job of labeling that inside of the Excel file, but that's okay. And we don't need any media, although I don't know if it's going to let us do this without it, so we might have to go do that real quick. Let's see. Let's see if this works, and this is going to be a little bit of a experimentation here on the fly. So bear with me as I try this one more time here. We're going to refresh this page because we want to try to re-upload that without those columns. And once we do that, I'm hoping that that bottom section goes away without us setting up a workspace. And it doesn't. Okay, so we're going to have to go set up that CMS workspace here. So we're going to go to Digital Experiences. And we need to create, we have a channel here, and we have a workspace. Oh, we do not have a workspace, perfect. Okay, so now we're going to create a workspace, call this Tiny Homes, and we'll just leave it as CMS workspace. Now, we might come back and revisit this, but we're mapping it to our site, so it's available for us. And we're going to select the language, and done. Once we have that, we'll come back over to Commerce, and back into import, and now we should be able to select that even though we're not actually using it. It looks like it's required for us to actually select here. So let's just fill these fields back in. We'll do standard price book here again, and then we'll start importing. And if we have any issues inside of the file, which looks like we do, we will need to go and fix that. Add a URL for the standard one. Okay. So yeah, it's not finding anything for that, but that's only a warning. We need to specify the stock keeping unit for product and try again. Okay, let's go look at this real quick. Looks like it wants us to call it stock keeping unit. It's interesting because in their documentation, it does not say that, I don't believe. It's a SKU. So let's give it one more try, and I will, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show everyone as I was going through this, but it is sometimes painful to use this import tool because things don't always line up the way that you would think they do. So we're going to give this one more shot and see if that works for us. Yeah, it looks like it needs that. Okay, so we're going to pause this for a moment. I'll come back when I actually have a file that will work for us. All right, we're back from that short break here. And funny enough, what I found is that even though we got an error on that last time, it actually did successfully go through. So I'm gonna go back into our Excel file for a moment, and you can see that I switched it back over into SKU. And when I go through it this time and bring that in, do an import here and do the same mapping that we did last time. And we'll do standard, tiny homes, and import. You'll notice this time it actually didn't fail, and it says that it updated one because one already exists there. So that's actually what triggered me into thinking, oh, did this actually create even though we got an error last time? And so I opened this up. I wanted to grab my SKU number that I tried to import that first time, and sure enough, sweatshirt was in here, and it was updated the day before. And so that was strange. And so that's sometimes I've gotten a couple of those errors on that importer, so it's definitely not foolproof, but it definitely does make the process a bit easier if you can kind of get through some of the kinks that it has, especially with that limit of 5,000. So with that being said, I thought it would be next helpful here to actually go through what does it look like from a data load or a workbench or an Excel file standpoint if you, for some reason, can't use the import tool. So I'll go through just a quick file structure first, and then how you'd actually do this in Workbench, since that's going to be the easiest to kind of illustrate here through the web browser. All right, so first things first here, let's actually open up a folder I prepared which has some Excel files in it. So there's going to be a handful of these files that I'll find a way to make available, probably through a Git repo as we start to make some of the code advancements in the future. I'll keep that up to date here. But these files here will be helpful to kind of have a starting place, although if you kind of understand how to upload into objects, it will be relatively easy to replicate. So what we'll first start with is our example product here. And I have that one open, I believe, already. Yep, example product. And this is just uploading into the product table to start with, because this kind of gets the baseline that you need to actually go and use that product ID record for the rest of it. So we'll start with creating a new SKU here with front door as the name. And what we're going to do is we're going to go log into Workbench. And if you haven't been to Workbench before, you'll have a login page before this. But then once you get logged in, you can go into insert data. You'll find your object, which in our case is product 2. We are going to be loading a file, which we're going to load this file in. And all right, and it does look like it successfully mapped all the fields for us, which is great. So we'll go to next, and then we can see how many records should be in this file we're inserting, and we'll click confirm insert. And once we have this created, you can kind of hover over this and click, view in Salesforce, which might be helpful for us to have open later, because right now it doesn't have any attachments to any of the other commerce stuff. So if you go into kind of the normal product workspace here and click refresh, you're not going to see it initially because it's not attached. But we will need this ID right here. So we're going to grab this. And the next thing we're going to do is go back to our folders here. And you can see that I have a couple other folders that we'll need to do. The first thing we're going to do is this pricebook entry. And inside this pricebook entry, we're going to need to do one thing, which is I've already preloaded the pricebooks. So keep in mind when you do load new products, you do need the standard pricebook and then whatever custom pricebook you want. That's one of the hard set limitations that Salesforce has on pricebooks, is you need that standard one. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to paste in just the ID and see if I can get it without it. The link here into both these rows. Make sure both of these are true, and we will save this. And now we can go back over to Workbench again, go to Data Insert, and then we're going to go to Pricebook Entries. Let's see if I can find this quickly here, and find our file that we just saved. And we're going to map active to isActive here. It already automatically maps the pricebook ID, product ID, and unit price for us. So we'll click Map Fields, and it's going to create 2 records for us, and we're going to confirm Insert. And now we have 2 price books. So if we go back over into our our front door right here and click refresh, we should see that 2 price books have been loaded for us now with that $10 price, which is fantastic. So the next thing we're going to need to do is go over into entitlements, and same thing here. I already preloaded the policy ID from our instance, but you can go to entitlement policies and find the ID pretty quickly there. We're going to put in the product that we already created, and we'll go back over to workbench, and we're going to be inserting this against the entitlement policy. And this one's a little bit harder to find, but it's going to be under commerce, and it's going to be the commerce entitlement product here. And we're going to pull in our file and map them. And this will map the policy to the product. And we'll click map. It's going to do 1 record for us. We're going to click confirm. And now we have that. So now if we jump back over into the product, we can see that the entitlement policy has been added here. So now let's go to the next step, which will be categories. And same type of deal here is we have the catalog pre-populated. We need to put in the product ID, and we have the category we want to map it to. In our case, we only have 1, which is products. So we'll save that, go back over into workbench here and click insert. And we're going to find product category product, I believe is what it's called. And then we'll come into product category file here and click next. And an easy way to know if you're doing this right or not is, one, to have kind of a cheat sheet open if you are able to, and then you can come in here and kind of clearly see if it's going to be the right mapping or not. In our case, it most definitely is. So we're going to click product here, map. It's going to do 1 record for us, click insert, and if we hop back over to our product and click refresh, we should now see a category loaded, which is exactly what we wanted. So now if we hop back over into product workspaces, we should see that there are now 3 products available for us. We have a new front door, which links us back to our product we were just on, and it has all 3 records there. Now you can see just from that simple exercise that doing more than 1 product that way can get a little bit overwhelming. Definitely through the UI, it would be easier to do a single product just using the UI. However, there are situations where it makes sense to use Workbench or Data Loader to kind of do that type of staging in files. In some cases, when you're switching between simple products to product variations, that can only be done through data manipulation, through Data Loader, and putting the right types in for the parent products and remapping all of those. So sometimes that needs to be done through Workbench or a Data Loader. However, if you can take advantage of the standard import tool over here, and even using the simple or advanced version of that, it can save you a lot of time and energy. So hopefully that gave everyone a quick how-to on importing products into the instance. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any other imports that you're curious on when it comes to Commerce Cloud inside of Salesforce. Thanks, everyone.